The National Resistance Army, which captured power in 1986, has been preoccupied by numerous security internal threats, like the Lord's Resistance Army, LRA, which had terrorized northern Uganda for more than a decade. After ensuring peace and tranquility, the now impoverished populace were crying out for help, prompting the government to develop various poverty eradication programs intended to equip the people with tools to uplift the economy. In 1995, President Yoweri Museveni launched the Entandikwa scheme in Kapchorwa. The project was planned to help people in the informal sector gain access to low-interest rate credit services. It is estimated 180 microcredit institutions benefited from the fund. However, this project failed to achieve the desired outcome, and government unveiled Bonabaga Gawari program in 2007 with loans ranging from between 13 to 17% interest rate.
Up to 4,114,200 individuals have benefited from this program. But we must show.
Then in the recent past, government introduced a Myoga initiative, which looked at various categories like taxi operators, saloon workers, and fishermen, among others. In less than 2 years, the government also introduced the parish development model, targeting the grassroots persons who have never been involved in any business. Statistics show that 76% of the populace lives in the rural areas and 73% of the workforce is employed in agriculture. However, many of the people remain poor, and despite the various government interventions, 27% of the populace are poor, according to the Uganda Bureau of Statistics. The areas with highest poverty incidence are Karamoja, Acholi, Lango, West Nile, Chigezi, Bunyoro, and Toro. Josephine Nanyanzi is a maize farmer in Wachiso who has been engaged in growing the crop for over 20 years. Maize is a food and commercial crop in this area. However, the swamp from where they have been growing the maize is no longer fertile. Inputs like fertilizers, which the family can't afford.
We don't get much yield from our maize garden because we can't afford applying manure in the entire garden. We put manure in a small section of the garden, and it is where we expect to get better yields.
On a land like this one that is having lots of water, you would expect Nanyanzi Josephine to be planting things like yams or watermelons. But according to her, the land lost its humus because they overused it, and since 2006 they stopped planting such kind of crops on this very land. And she's saying in this kind of maize, she's expecting only 4 bags, and yet if she had added humus or manure, especially from chicken droppings, where a sack of 100 kgs costs about 25,000, she would harvest more than 10 bags. All this is happening just because the family can't afford to buy the agricultural inputs necessary for growing maize. And yet, there are several government programs that provide for that.
We have been hearing about this, but have never seen any of the programs reach. There are many programs that have come up. For some, they ask us to open bank accounts, but because we lack money, it's hard to complete the processes.
Her family is worried that the amount of maize they will harvest might not take them up to the next season. Some of the maize did not put any seeds.
At the end of the harvest, we shall only remain with maize to eat, yet we need salt, soap and sugar. I will be forced to burn charcoal to cover up.
Government has developed programs like the $150 million Agriculture Cluster Program funded by the World Bank, which is meant to connect farmers to authentic input dealers, provide grants for inputs like fertilizers, which Nyanzi and others need.
We all have similar challenges, including those who are not as poor as us. It means programs never reach the grassroots.
The Makerere University Economics Don Dr. John Mutenyo explains what the problem is.
There are a number of reasons. One, money has gone to the right people who are the poor. That's correct. But who are these poor? When they receive these funds, are you sure they are using this money on the right item? Or are they receiving this money and they feel this is a reward from government for being loyal? Are you sure that when they get this money, they are going to invest it properly? Or they are going to marry a second wife, pay school fees, and probably even go and drink it up?
Asked about this, Dr. Bakari Moki, the Commissioner for Policy Development and Capacity Building at Cabinet Secretariat in the Office of the President, admits most government programs are failing.
If you don't fix any technologies to match the population growth rates, what happens? Because ideally, people are using they're using the same technologies, they're using the same methods when circumstances change. So you cannot improve the livelihood when we are using the same tool. You cannot. It's like now in agriculture. You cannot continue saying you are going to be red-fed agriculture when it changes. You cannot. That's an example. You can't. You can't improve the well-being when people are still depending on rain. Whether you give them so much, you cannot. So what does that mean? It means that we should be coming up with other technologies which are not there. People should look at greenhousing, people should look at irrigation, but how many people are doing irrigation?
There is need to anchor away from old method means of farming.
So it's better to strengthen the existing systems, using through the existing systems. But the moment things are handled parallelly, that's where the problem begins. Because when you look at literature, when they start with the plan for modernization for agriculture, it was pulled out of, and some people are calling it, they were even mocking it as a plan for murdering agriculture. Because they saw it as something that has been pulled out of that. And then, of course, now they start institutional clashes and so on. But so it's true, some of the traditional systems have weaknesses, but if you have a weakness, it's better you fix the weakness other than starting something parallel. Otherwise, you weaken the old systems. Increase information sharing, increase joint carrying of activities, increase joint monitoring, people working together as one. There'll be a difference.
According to Dr. Moki, another challenge that some of the policies government has come up with are not formed basing on expertise.
That's where the problem is starting. There's very limited use of expertise. And if that's not addressed, then it's a problem. And that can only be addressed if people work with synergies.
Critics say there is a need for government to develop a paradigm shift from generating policies from boardrooms and implementing them without knowing what problems they are trying to fix and how. If that continues, the country will continue to lose billions of money on program after program. Sudil Biarhanga, NTV.